Hey guys, and welcome to part 2 of my flight attendant Q&A video. Thank you to everyone who submitted questions. Thank you for everyone who commented underneath some of my other videos, letting me know about what you guys want to know in this Q&A video. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, I will link it up in the right hand corner, and I'll also link it down in the description box below. So if you haven't watched that one yet, make sure that you check it out. And without any further ado, let's get started with the Q&A. So I have some notes here, all handwritten notes. Well, all the questions, I just took every single question that you guys asked me in the past few videos where I asked you to submit your questions for my Q&A video, and I just wrote all of them down. And in the first video, I think I went over 11 questions. I think there are like 10 questions left for this video, I think. So let's start with question number 1. Any place you haven't visited yet that you still want to see? There are a few. So one of them is, I'm just gonna start with the places that my airline just started flying to, or that we have flown to already and that I have never gotten in my schedule. So one place I've never been to is Sao Paulo in Brazil. My airline just started flying there again this December, and obviously my seniority is not high enough at the moment that I will get that trip because it's new and everyone wants to go. The weather is nice during the winter time because it's summer there, all of that. So that's one of the places. Also, I'd really like to see Seattle. My airline starts flying there sometime next year, so that's on the list. And then also Cape Town. Like, my seniority is way too low to score a Cape Town trip. I just talked to a colleague the other day, and she told me that she had been flying for about 15 years and she is all the way in the bottom of the crew list. So my seniority is too low for that. I think those are the places that are on my list right now where my airline goes. I mean, where my airline doesn't go, I'd really like to see New Zealand because I've never been there. And I really want to see like the Lord of the Ring filming spots because I'm a huge fan of the movies. So that's one. Other than that, let me think. Oh, Melbourne. Melbourne is on that list. I've been to Australia twice, but I never made it to Melbourne. So maybe I'll go there sometime. We'll see. So I have a pen here, and I'll just take that question off my list. Now, let's continue. Are there any destinations your airline flies to that you haven't been to yet? And if there are places they only fly to from Frankfurt, could you ever request to work these flights even though you're Munich based? Okay, so many of you know I'm Munich based, and no, I cannot request or bid on flights that are only operated from Frankfurt. Sometimes there are special circumstances when they let us fly trips through Frankfurt. For instance, when we got our A380s in Munich and they just transferred those planes from Frankfurt. In the start, they had Frankfurt colleagues work from Munich, and then they also had some Munich colleagues work on our A340-600s from Frankfurt, because not everyone in Munich, or not that many people in Munich, had been trained on the A380 yet. That was the only time I ever worked a flight from Frankfurt to another destination. So generally, no, I cannot bid on any of those flights, especially the ones that are only operated from Frankfurt. And I think like the first part of the question, like if there are any destinations that my airline flies to that I haven't been to yet, I just answered that, I think. So Sao Paulo, Brazil, then Delhi, India. Actually, I haven't been there yet because it's just, for me to bid on it, it just has too few hours. It only gets me like 16 flying hours, and I usually bid on trips that get me at least 25 flying hours. So that's why I've never been there. And what else? Well, we'll start going there next year. We'll start going to Seattle next year. We'll start going to Detroit next year. I mean, technically I have been to Detroit, but just the airport. And we're starting to go to Bangalore, India next year as well. And those are destinations that I've never been to. And Cape Town, obviously. Like I said, my seniority is not high enough for that. But other than that, I mean, there are probably some cities in Europe that I have never been to that my airline flies to. I'm just thinking about it right now. Like some cities in Italy and France. I've never been to Bordeaux, for instance. I've never been to Iceland, but I think we don't have an Iceland layover. I think we just have a flight there and then a return flight. I have never been to Cairo in Egypt. I have never been to Tel Aviv in Israel. So there are a lot of destinations I haven't been to, but you guys know I usually fly long haul, and with my A380 license, because I am licensed to work on an A380 and not everyone at my base is, I'm pretty much supposed to fly more long haul than short haul destinations. So I think those were like the main destinations that I haven't been to that my airline flies to. So let's continue. How did you learn English and what was your high school year like? Well, the answer is pretty much in that question. So I learned English in school. And then at the age of 15, I decided to go to the US for a year to do an exchange year. So I just went to high school there for my sophomore year of high school. And how I really learned English, that one, okay, I'm gonna look bad at the end of this. So, I mean, I started to learn English when I was 10 years old. In school, we just had English classes. I think we had like 3 hours per week or something like that of like English lessons. And then when I was about 12 years old, well, I think I was 11, so it was right before I turned 12, I received a DVD player as a gift from my aunt and uncle. And I remember I was watching all of those Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen movies that were really, really popular back then. And my siblings, so our TV was in the living room, and then the second TV was in my siblings' room. So they were sharing a room, my sister and my brother, when they were little. And I had my own room because I was the older sister. So that second TV was in that room because in my room I couldn't have a TV because there was no plug-in for it. So I always had to go to my siblings' room to watch some TV and to watch my DVDs. And they were so annoying. Sorry guys, if you're watching, Karen, Benny, I'm sorry, but you guys were really annoying when you were little. When I was watching a movie, they were so annoying. They would always be really loud and say stuff and like talk when I was trying to watch a movie. So I decided to change the language to English. Like, usually our stuff is like dubbed in German. Like if you watch an American movie even, or a British movie, it's gonna be dubbed in German. And what I did at first was I switched the language to the original language, which was English, and then I used subtitles at first. And after about half a year, I didn't need the subtitles anymore, and my English had gotten really, really good. So I was basically pretty much fluent before I went to the US for my exchange year. So that's basically how I learned English. And oh, I forgot to mention this. Because my siblings were younger and they didn't know English, they didn't understand anything that was said in those movies, and because of that, whenever I watched a movie in English, they would just leave the room because they didn't understand anything. And that's why I said I'm gonna look really bad after mentioning this. So that's how I learned English. And then at 15 I went to the US by myself. I lived with a host family in Ohio and just went to high school there for a year, and that's how my English got really, really good. I'm sorry, I don't want to brag or anything, but I mean, I get a lot of comments on it as well, and I do proofread stuff in English for other people sometimes. So for some of my friends, I read their bachelor or master theses and they just sent them to me, and they invited me to dinner afterwards as like a treat. So that was like my payment for proofreading their stuff. So I think that answered this question. Then, can you teach us one German word about flight attendant life per day during Vlogmas? Sorry, I haven't done it yet, but let's start with something. Like a lot of the words that we use on board, like flight attendant vocabulary is international vocabulary. So it's like in English. But let's see, what could I teach you guys? Oh, I have a good one. Notausgang. That one means emergency exit. And Notausgangsreihe means emergency exit row. Your one German word about flight attendant life. And I tried to include more German in my vlogs the last few days, so I hope you guys noticed that. Okay. Then, how do you do it when snowstorms come through and you have to be at work? Are the roads pretty much open? Do they ever shut down? Okay, so I live in Salzburg, and I mean, it's close to the Alps, but it's not like I live in a mountain village. And here in Salzburg, we don't get as much snow as, for instance, my mom gets, who still lives in my hometown about an hour south of Salzburg. And honestly, I have like 5 different routes that I can take in order to get to work. So if they close down one of the roads, I'm usually not that badly affected because I can just use a different road to get to work. But the thing is, it has actually never happened to me that one of the roads was completely closed due to snow. It sometimes happens that I have to drive on like a foot of snow. I have winter tires for that. I have like snow chains for that. So they were always in my car, so I can use those. I also know how to apply them, so I'm good. But I never had to apply those either. So the thing is, I just leave about an hour earlier than I usually leave in order to go to work in the winter time, because if the roads are really bad, it'll take longer. And so far there haven't been many problems. I know that last year a lot of roads in Germany were closed down because of the snow, but honestly, like, no one could get to work because all of the roads were closed in some parts in northern Germany, or in the middle of Germany, I think. Like, they had some really bad snowstorms, and like I said, it has never affected me. And if they really closed down every single road that I can take in order to get to work, I would have to call them and tell them, I'm sorry, but there's literally no way I can get there unless they like send a helicopter or something, which they wouldn't do. Yeah, but that's basically it. So I haven't had any troubles with that, and also I'm pretty good with driving on a road that's covered in snow, so I'm not scared of it or anything. I hope that answers the question. So let's continue with the next question. Do you mix with other airline crew when staying away? That one's interesting. Sometimes we meet colleagues from other airlines. It just depends on the city, whether they are staying at the same hotel. In some cities we have several airlines staying at one hotel. In other cities we have some clubs that are very popular with flight attendants or something. In some cities we sometimes meet the Frankfurt crew, because I'm Munich based and usually I'm with my Munich crew. And for instance, in like Hong Kong, I feel like there aren't any like set borders between airlines, because we all go to the same clubs in the evening, and there you meet a lot of colleagues from different airlines, a lot of flight attendants, a lot of pilots. But generally speaking, like, I know in Mumbai in India we meet a lot of other crews as well, because we have a crew lounge at our hotel, and there are a few airlines that are staying at the same hotel. But other than that, usually no. Like, if I'm just in Denver or something, even our Frankfurt crew has a different hotel from the Munich crew. And no, usually it's just like this: you stay with your crew, or if you have a longer layover, you might know someone who got there on the day before you or on the day after you got there. And if you have like 2 or 3 days at a destination, then you can meet up with those people that you know. But we don't really mix that much with other crews. So next question, you mentioned that gas is expensive in Austria compared to US. Can you share what the cost is? So over here in Europe, we mainly use liters instead of gallons, but I'll just like convert it for you guys. So a liter of gas this morning cost €1.22. So that's about $1.35 per liter. So in 1 gallon there are 3.78 liters, which means that a gallon of gas over here costs about $5. So $5 is pretty much the standard price right now for 1 gallon of gas. It's basically the same for diesel at the moment as well. So $5 for standard gas, and $5 for diesel for like a gallon. So I know a lot of you will probably say that's really expensive. Over here it's considered really, really cheap at the moment. Just letting you guys know. So I consider this a cheap price for getting gas over here. And yeah. So you guys do the math on how much money I spend on gas every single month. It's not that bad, because I have a car that does not use a lot of gas. So it's very environmentally friendly, if you want to put it like that. It's a small car, so it doesn't need that much gas in the first place. What else? What's the most beautiful place you have ever been to? The Whitsundays. The Whitsundays is a group of islands in Australia, like right off the coast of Australia. If you're staying in Airlie Beach, which is in Queensland, you can take either like a boat, like a speedboat, or you can go on a sailing turn to the Whitsundays. It's beautiful. It's beautiful, so beautiful. And the beach there, Whitehaven Beach, is considered the second most beautiful beach in the world. But in my opinion, it is the most beautiful beach in the world. And I love it there. The water is crystal clear. You have all those turquoise waters. You have like national forests there. It's beautiful, like so beautiful. My hair keeps falling into my face. Sorry. Anyways, like that's what I consider the most beautiful place in the world. Then Do you have tips for long haul flights, like 12-hour flights? Go check out my anti-jet lag video. I'll link it up here in the right hand corner, and if I don't forget, I'll also link it down in the description box below, because I pretty much have all of my tips about long haul flights in that video. So I'm just sharing a few of the most important tips that I can give you guys. Drink enough water. Don't drink alcohol or anything that's caffeinated during your flight. Eat healthy and get your sports in. Like, do some workouts before the flight, do some workouts once you get to the destination, and you'll feel so much better on long haul flights. And it's also really, really good if you book your seat in advance, because then you're probably not going to be stuck with a middle seat. Middle seats are usually the seats people don't want. So yeah, plan ahead, and also like bring some mask for your face so that your skin arrives hydrated. So just take good care of yourself basically. And I like to walk before every flight. I like to walk after every flight, and I feel like that really helps. So those are my most important tips. Then next question. What do you do against travel sickness or motion sickness? Honestly, I haven't gotten motion sickness since I was like 3 or 4 years old. I grew up in a very small village with a very, very curvy road that led to the next city. And I remember when I was like 3 years old, I would throw up all the time in a car because those curves, they just made me so sick. But because of that, I think I'm used to it right now, which is why I don't get motion sickness like ever. So there are a few tips that I can share with you guys. Make sure that you drink enough water. When you feel like you're getting motion sickness, then what you can do is focus on one point in a plane. Don't look outside the window. Focus on one point, like an overhead storage compartment or a certain seat, something like that. Focus on that point, and then usually everything will ease up and you're not gonna feel as sick. Because you're focusing your eyes on one point, you don't feel like the whole plane is like shaking or something. And also I know that there are some chewing gums that you can buy at the pharmacy that will help with motion sickness. And for me, one of the things is I don't ever want to go on a plane without having eaten first. So if I'm hungry, I feel like there might be a slight chance that I feel motion sick. But if I eat something beforehand, and even if it's just like a piece of bread or some crackers, I feel like it's so much better. But yeah, those are the tips I can give you. Sorry if they were not enough, but like I said, I really don't have that much experience with motion sickness when flying. And then we have another question. Where in the States did you attend high school? Okay, there's another question. That's the last question. I think I'm just gonna combine those two questions, because the last question is, what was your high school year like? So I already mentioned this. I attended high school, or I only attended 1 year of high school. So my sophomore year of high school, my 10th grade year of high school in the US. I went to Glen Oak High School in Canton, Ohio, and I had an amazing time in the US. I still have very good friends who live there. My host mom moved a couple of times, so she's not in Ohio anymore, but I'm still very close with her. So we send each other messages, and I visit her now and then. I went to Chicago with her last year, and it's just really nice to have those friendships and those people in my life. Like, some of them have really become family. And my high school year was amazing. I went to an amazing high school. I had great teachers, I had great classes. For me, it was something new that I could choose my own classes, because in Austria you get like your schedule and everything's on there. Like, you can't choose anything. Everyone has to take all the subjects that they have pre-chosen for you basically. So everyone in one class is taking the same stuff. And yeah, that was just a really good experience. I was very lucky with my host family, and going to high school there I didn't have any troubles, because I feel like in like math and stuff we were advanced at my school in Austria, and I was advanced in my classes there as well. So for instance, I did my 10th grade year of high school in the US, but I was in the 11th grade math class basically, just as an example. And I didn't have any troubles like following along with what we were going through, like the class material, because my English was at a pretty good level back then. My pronunciation got way better when I went to the US, just saying. Like, I feel like I pronounced words in a more Austrian or German way back then than I am pronouncing them right now, as you guys can probably hear. And yeah, I loved the experience. I wouldn't want to miss it for anything in the world. It was just a really great year. And if you're thinking about doing an exchange year, or if your daughter or son is thinking about doing an exchange year in a foreign country, it's so amazing. It shapes a person. Like, I feel like it changed me in some ways, obviously, and it made me grow, and there's really nothing bad I can say about it. So those were all of the questions you guys sent me. Like I mentioned before, if you haven't checked out my Q&A part 1 video yet, go ahead and check that out. I hope I answered all of your questions the way you wanted me to answer them. And if you have any more questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments section below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you're not subscribed to my channel yet, please go ahead, hit that subscribe button down below. Also make sure that you click on the bell icon below, because otherwise YouTube is not going to notify you whenever I upload a new video. And it's Vlogmas, guys, so there are so many new videos up, so I don't want you guys to miss any of those. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.